Is that your thing? You come into a bar, you read some obscure passage, and then pretend you pawn it off as your own idea just to impress some girls?
You don't have the faintest idea what you're talking about. What? So if I asked you about art, you'd probably give me the skinny on every art book ever written. If I ask you about women, you'd probably give me a silver set, your personal favorites. I ask you about war, you'd probably throw Shakespeare at me, right? Once more into the breach, dear friends. I ask you about love, you'd probably quote me a sonnet. You don't know about real loss, because that only occurs when you love something more than you love yourself. I doubt you've ever dared to love anybody that much. You're an orphan, right? Do you think I know the first thing about how hard your life has been? Because I read Oliver Twist.
So what we see the character of Will doing here in the movie Good Will Hunting is projecting onto a version of himself. For those of you that don't know, the universe is a mirror. Stories that people tell are a reflection of themselves. And within the story, every character is a reflection of every other character. But mainly every character is a reflection of the main character. The character that Robin Williams plays as his therapist is a reflection of Will's higher self and inner wisdom. The guy that he's confronting is a reflection of his toxic self, his past self, the self that keeps him from moving on. It's a character that has graduated from a particular program, and Will rejects college entirely because he's too smart for it. The guy who's, he's confronting is acting superior because he's completed these programs. And Will puts him in his place basically to prove that, you've completed these programs, but that doesn't really mean anything because I'm totally smarter than you. But from a spiritual perspective, he is confronting a past version of himself. He's referring to an aspect of himself, because what he says is you're taking information and, peddling it as your own to get some very small prize in the world, which is to impress some girls. Nothing wrong with impressing women, but he's pretending to be something that he's not. And that's essentially what Robin Williams' character checks Will about. He says, man, you're pretending to be somebody you're not. You're peddling this information as if you've lived it, but you haven't. This dynamic within the movie was so incredibly instrumental in demonstrating how even in movies, characters are reflections of each other. Whatever they're confronting someone else about is really something that they need to confront within themselves. So the fractal shit doesn't stop just because it's a movie. It's just a movie. No, it's not just a movie. It is a story, and the stories come from people. And the stories come from the aspect of the person that they value the most at the time. And that's why they write it. That's why they work on the project for hours and hours and days and months and years and years. So these projects, these stories are reflections. If they're successful or if they're not successful, if they're just in the public domain, they're reflections of mass consciousness. They're stories that we believe on a subconscious level need to come to the conscious surface. And so we look at Good Will Hunting, and you just look at that little example, and it's just so beautiful how the law of reflection is demonstrated in a story that's not even real.
Be aware, nerd.